Hello and welcome to another episode of Around the Wicket. Tonight, as we said last episode, we will be previewing the Australia versus Sri Lanka short form series, as well as talking on another few points that has been happening in the cricketing world of Australia at the moment. So obviously, first off the bat, the series is a 5-game series with games in Sydney, Canberra and Melbourne. So obviously, Sri Lanka are coming over. We last played them in the format in the World Cup, but we beat them convincingly. I guess I'll throw to you, boys, and will you remember that match, or how do you reckon we're going to shape up against them?
I personally don't remember the specific match, or I don't remember that we won, obviously, quite well, but I don't remember the exact details. I was surprised, not surprised as such, but it's very interesting, I think. Like, just in even the World Cup squad in general, I don't know how that actually gets picked, really, because it obviously doesn't get picked off Big Bash, and neither does this, which is, I thought, the logical reason for the Big Bash. Like, isn't that the point of domestic cricket? Like, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but like Sheffield Shield, Test players get picked from Sheffield Shield, Marsh Cup into the ODI, isn't the whole point of it? Big Bash is a domestic competition that should be determined to pick this. I don't understand why certain players got selected and why certain players that performed very well in the BBL didn't get selected. But we'll get to that later on when you mention who's in, I guess. But yeah, I was a bit shocked by that, to be honest. But I don't know about you guys.
Do you think like a lot of the players, like there's a few players that are in this squad that are going to Pakistan to play in the Test series, and obviously they've come off just the home series now. Do you think that that's what they should have done? They should have just rewarded guys that have performed in the Big Bash just for this 5 games and see what they can do. Obviously, it's probably the last look we're going to get at a lot of these guys before the World Cups here in October or November. So what do you think about that?
I think that's a perfect example. Although I want to see Ashton Agar playing in this series, would he have been better playing Shield cricket and getting that under his belt and going to Pakistan, as we all know he's selected for that, and getting a bit more Shield under his matches as well as the other few, and rewarding the people that have played Big Bash for the last couple of months now? Like, wouldn't that logically make more sense? Like, we beat Sri Lanka convincingly. She'd been in the World Cup. I think our best BBL players are going to beat them, to be honest. McDermott, for example, like, obviously he's in the team, so he should be. Maxwell wasn't picked at Pakistan. Like, I think, why not play the domestic T20 cricketers? It doesn't make sense to me. What you speech?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, there's only a handful of players in the squad that had a good or at least solid BBL season, and the rest are either red ball cricketers or just, all form cricketers. It's interesting, like a lot of guys in there that haven't played a lot of white ball cricket, especially recently. So it is interesting, that an interesting point that you make on the selection criteria for this type of tournaments. It is a very, 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 very good point that you make.
Yeah, I agree. I both agree and disagree with what has been said. I agree in the fact that, looking back at the match, Australia did win convincingly by 7 wickets. Obviously, Sri Lanka were only able to make 154, and that was chased down in 17 overs. Sample was obviously man of the match. But interestingly, you've got in there Warner and Stephen Smith were 2 of the top scorers, and then also Pat Cummins and Mitch Starc took wickets. So I agree with what you're saying to an extent. I think that since it's T20, you probably should pick blokes that have been playing it. But then I sort of disagree to the point where I find the best teams in international cricket are consistent and they play with each other a lot. They don't chop and change it too much, because once you start doing that, just because a bloke's been making runs in domestic tournament, as soon as you put half a team of those blokes in, that throws everyone else out a little bit. But again, I do agree with you. I would love to see, like a best Big Bash 11 play against Sri Lanka, because you're right, we probably would still win, not downgrading Sri Lanka too much. They're obviously a great side, but would be entertaining to watch. And I do agree with what Jai said. I think with the World Cup on our home turf in October, unless they play IPL, there's not too many other tournaments you can pick guys off if you want to pick guys that are not in this 11. So I think this was really the series that would have been perfect for that. But yeah, I mean, the selectors do their job, and all we can do is pick them apart for how good or how bad they do. But either way, into the 11 that we've got here for the series, obviously Aaron Finch will be the captain. Whether or not that's a good call, that's also an everlasting debate. As Sam said, you've got Ashton Agar. He's also a favourite of mine. Pat Cummins, Hazelwood, Head. Moses Henriques, however you want to say it. He was one of the ones that Jack was saying had a great big bash, as he seems to always do. Joshy Inglis, love that inclusion. Ben McDermott, obviously an absolute shoo-in. Sam will probably talk about that one later. Big fan of him, obviously. Animal in the runs department. Same with Glenn Maxwell. Jai Richardson, who was actually left out of the Pakistan tour, which is probably another topic for another day, but he'll probably be coming in red hot when he gets a chance to bowl in this series. Kane Richardson, Daniel Sams, who I actually am really impressed by. I didn't give him much of a rate when I first saw him come into the team and saw that he was out there for the World Cup, but his big bash was great as well. Steve Smith, Mitch Stark, Marcus Stoinis, Matthew Wade, and of course, Adam Zampa. What do you reckon about the 11, boys? Go to Jack first.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strong squad. I mean, as sort of touched on, like a lot of very, very good international cricketers, like top tier of international cricketers. And then, good big bash players as well. Yeah, it's just a couple of interesting guys in there, like Steve Smith is probably the main one in terms of his T20 sort of skill set. Like he's there for his solidness and, like that innings against South Africa in their first game of the World Cup. But I feel like a guy like John O'Wells is probably better at that sort of job. It's probably one that's probably stiff to miss out in that sort of role. And he has also been playing T20 cricket. But I mean, other than that, Travis Head's another interesting one who hasn't played a lot of T20 cricket lately. But other than that, it is still a very, very strong squad and should win convincingly.
Yep, Sam?
Yeah, no, I think Speeds said it perfectly. Yeah, as I said, there's a couple of BBL players, in my opinion, that are probably stiff. Like, I mean, although he's old, like Peter Siddle was in crazily good form. Like, why not play him? I'm not saying he's a better player than Cummins or Stark or whatever, but like, why not play him over one of them guys and let them play for New South Wales, get some Sheffield Shield in, and then play him against Pakistan? Like, doesn't actually make sense-ish to me. Like, I don't see why they do it. They still want to win, obviously. But I still think we would win. That's the thing. Obviously, Matt Short, John Wells, a few players have done really well. That I think we're a bit stiff to miss out. Like Steve Smith, I'm not sure. I don't really think he's that good of a T20 player. I don't know why he keeps playing. But then again, I mean, the same argument could be made for the World Cup. Like they didn't really obviously pick off BBL or anything like that, because half the blokes don't play BBL, they play that, like Smith, your Warner, Stark, all that sort of stuff don't play that. So, Hazelwood. So they've done the same thing there and it clearly works. So it's obviously whatever works for them, but this isn't a World Cup. It's a 5-game series against Sri Lanka, which I think, as I said, I think we'd win with the BBL team, but it's a very good team. There's no denying that. I think it'll win. We'll win convincingly. But whether they should have played some different players or not, I'm not sure. But Jai, what do you reckon?
Yep, pretty much spot on, mate. Obviously the bowling department's very strong. Cummins, Stark, and Hazelwood are all picked there to play. But yeah, as you said, I would have given an opportunity to guys that have bowled well in the BBL, like Siddle. And I think that Cummins and like Hazelwood's coming back from injury, and Stark, I don't think they'll play every game. I think Kane Richardson, Jai Richardson, they'll get bulk of the opportunity, I believe. I think they should go that way anyway. So we'll see what happens there. And yeah, I think Steve Smith, he should be just playing Shield cricket for New South Wales, finding plenty of form before he heads off to Pakistan. So yeah, agree with what you said. I think we'll win well, but yeah, very interesting in the selection department.
Yeah, I think especially players like Smith who have such high praise, probably fair enough, who haven't been performing well in the tests. Like, it's a perfect opportunity to put some Shield matches into them and get him into some form. And now, like him, it's obviously minus we're playing Shield. Like, get them into some form before they go over there. It doesn't really make sense.
Is Mitch Marsh in the team?
Yeah,
No,
that's one I
he's
was gonna.
resting.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's what I was gonna touch on, because to me, what it looks like as a squad selection, if you were to ask me about it, I think it's a bit half and half. Like, to me, it's a bit like half these players, like Mitchie Marsh being one of them, and a few others are like, yeah, I'm just going to rest for the Pakistan series. And then half of them are like, no, I'm going to play this. So to me, especially with what's happened in the last couple of days with the leadership change and everything, I just think they should have just gone, all right, well, you're all going to play this T20 series, or all right, well, you're all going to play Shield in preparation for Pakistan. Because at the moment, you've got probably, how many's in there? Probably almost the whole bowling lineup and a few batsmen from the test team playing I'm not going to say it's worthless, but, a home T20 series. And then the other half, like Marnus, Khawaja, Scotty Boland, all playing Sheffield Shield. So your team's a bit separated. They're not going to play Shield for the same team and together, but it's just the format change. So I think if you had the chance for them to get a couple of games of Shield, why wouldn't you tell your whole test team to do that? Especially since, they'll be coming into that in much better form rather than chopping and changing. But I mean, they're professional cricketers, so they're paid to do that. But yeah, to me, it just looks like it's like, who wants to do this and who doesn't, instead of, all right, we're going to do this and you guys are going to play this because, and you're all going to do it, instead of a bit chopping and changing. But I was going to ask, final thing on the lineup, who do you see as the most important player for us to see to win the series, and who do you think will be the player of the series in our lineup, in your opinion? We'll go to Jack.
I think play of the series are probably, as sort of Jai was saying, with the resting and the continuity. I think probably someone like Glenn Maxwell or Ben McDermott would probably have the chance, because they'll probably play every game, to make a lot of runs and be that the X factor either up the top or in that middle order to make a lot of runs and steady or make bulk runs for the series. I think it's probably the fair chance there for most important player and play the series as well. One of those two.
Nice. Jai?
Yeah, I'm going to look towards Aaron Finch in this series. It's probably a big one for him. It wasn't his best World Cup by his normal standards. His captaincy was great. We know what a leader he is, but we'll be looking for him to score plenty of runs. And I think this is his big opportunity in the lead up to the World Cup. So I think I'm going to expect a big one from Aaron Finch.
Awesome. Take Sam.
No surprise. Probably Ben McDermott. He obviously one of the players that were picked off the back of BBL format, or BBL series, I should say. And I'd see a big 5-game series from him. And I think, as you said, he'll play pretty much all the games, if not most. So, I see a big 5 games for him.
Well, myself, bias has me trying to go for Jai Richardson, hoping he's going to take a lot of wickets. But I think what won us the World Cup was players throughout the middle order and sort of down the bottom of the order making runs. I think we don't win that if it's not for, the likes of Stoyan down through the middle order, and obviously Matty Wade in that semi-final. I think that without those runs, we don't win. So I'm looking at a guy like, even a Daniel Sams, he can hold the stick. I think Moses might bat through the middle. So I think guys like that, and obviously Wadey himself, if he plays all 5, I think they're going to be massive for us. And if they really go hard and have a good series, then we will win convincingly.
Just before that as well, like a selection that probably surprised me a bit was Travis Head. Like, I mean, he obviously done really well. There's nothing taken away. His Ashes series was unbelievable. For the few BBL games he did play, from memory, he was incredibly average. So With that being said, obviously he's a fantastic player. He'll go out there and score a ton every game now. I've said that, but like, I don't know. It's just like it seemed like Steve Smith has no, besides the World Cup, obviously doesn't play BBL as we discussed, but like Travis Head did go back play BBL and did, from what I can remember, didn't do much. But so yeah, I was a bit shocked by that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, and Steve's even more of an interesting one because he tried to play Big Bash and he wasn't allowed, or the Sixers didn't want him. So that's a real interesting one. And I remember in our episode before the World Cup and obviously after it, so we talked a lot about Smitty, and I remember sort of saying that he needs more time and it might not be his format anymore. So if obviously he's going to play, if he's in the squad, you think it'd be a bit weird if Steve Smith didn't play at least one game. So it'll be very interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah.
So I guess last thing on the series, what do you guys see the final score being in terms of games won, Sam?
I think we'll win every game that's not washed out or decided another way. But yeah, I don't see us really losing a game. I know Mick Malthouse said that for the Blues, and we finished close to it. But no, I don't see us losing. Yeah, I don't. With that team, it is really hard for us to see us losing a game. But also, you mentioned earlier about like the reason going half and half, and the reason they do that is they don't want to like mix it up too much, which is a great point. Mate, why don't they just play as the per scorchers team then? They're used to playing. They're the best in the comp, best in Australia, well, arguably best T20 players in Australia, besides international players, obviously. They're used to playing together. Why not play them?
It'd be great if we could get Cole Munro an Australian citizenship. I'll be all for it. Yeah. No, but yeah, I agree. I think it would have been a great idea, but yeah, you can't do the selectors' job for them. That's their job, and they do it. And obviously, speaking of selectors and people in high places in the Australian cricket team and setup, obviously, if you follow cricket at all in Australia at the moment, you would have heard the news that JL, Justin Langer, has been, well, he has resigned after a lot of controversy and a lot of hours in meeting with Cricket Australia and the board after what was allegedly a players called meeting since they want new leadership coming from the captain. He was offered a 6-month contract and he declined it and resigned. So Andrew McDonald will be interim coach across all formats. Obviously, that starts with this series. I guess first off, I won't ask your broad thoughts because that's a big question, but I'll just ask on the positive side, what do you reckon in Andrew McDonald and how's he going to go in this series? Speech?
I mean, big AMAC. He's a Victorian, so obviously he's going to be fantastic. But no, I do think, obviously would rather this not have happened and then not have been this big saga or whatever. But I think Andrew McDonald is still one of those guys that can really hold down the fort still. Like he's just that calming influence, I think, and like he's very, very cricket smart. I think we obviously lose that edge that Langer had, but I still think we're not really downgrading really in terms of cricketing IQ with AMAC at all.
Yeah. Jai?
Yeah, as Speech said, very smart in the cricketing department. He's coached very well in Victorian cricket, and by the looks of it, looking in on from the outside, the players respect him. So that's big. So I think that he'll do okay, and he'll be in the running for the main gig, I'd say.
Yep. Sam?
Yeah, no, I can sort of see myself agreeing with like seeing Justin Langer's side of it and also Cricket Australia's side of it. We never know the whole truth about what happens behind closed doors. Like you do hear a lot of stories that were mentioned before about certain incidents that happened with Justin Langer, but I can also see why after winning a World Cup, which no one expected us to win, and an Ashes series that we were expected to win, to be fair, but also win it convincingly, how a 6-month contract would be insulting. I can sort of understand that, like that, but obviously it wasn't performance based. The 6-month contract, it was like based on other areas. But like I was also surprised that Pat Cummins came out and said that his intensity wasn't the issue. Like, they loved it, which is a big thing that people are like, oh, this is why we don't like him. This is it. This is the reason he's got to go because he's too intense. But then Pat, the captain comes out and says it's not the issue. It's not the reason. So I found that, and the fact they do like it, I found they like the intensity. I found that very, I guess surprising. But obviously, I mean, Andy McDonald's going to be a great coach, but I do feel for Justin Langer as well a little bit. But just moving forward, I guess. Hopefully, we found the right one this time because we seem to go through them quite a bit. Sorry, but I don't know.
No, that's well said. I think it was on one of our earlier episodes. I remember talking about it because we were a bit worried that JL might have been coming to an end. And I think it was you, Sam, that said that really in cricket, the coach isn't as big as they are when you compare them to other sports. And that's true. But for me, I think Justin Langer in Australia, if you take in when he came in, what he came into and what he accomplished, I think he is probably one of the outliers in head coaches of a cricket team where they matter 100%. Like if you throw any other bloke into that team and ask him to do what JL did, I don't think they'd be able to do it. I think we all have to just stand back and say, like, Justin Langer, well done. Like I'm so grateful we had him. And I'm very sad to see him go, but yeah, that's the one time where like the coach of the cricket team was massive because he changed not only what was happening on the field, but you could see how much he changed all the players in the sort of people they were. And that's one thing that Pat did say in his big statement today was he was intense, yes, but he changed us and the way we play cricket so much for the better that, I don't think he could really ever be repaid. So you're right in saying that a short 6-month contract is very insulting because they should be, building the man a statue, as, how he would say. But, I think in terms of JL, though, I just want your thoughts in that. One, do you think he was hard done by? Oh, not hard done by. He was obviously hard done by. But do you think he could have coached us and kept the success, or do you think the players really were after someone different? Like they wore him thin a bit. Do you think it's the right call by the players or not? Jai?
Oh, I think it's hard to say, like, coming from the players because it shouldn't be on the players to make that decision. I mean, it's obviously they've got to be coached by him, but at the same time, that you got to do what's best for Australian cricket. And I think that Justin Langer was the right man. He's had a great 12 months. And, to see him go out the way he did was really disappointing. So I don't think it should have ended like that. And, he should have at least gotten 12 months going forward.
Do you think the 6 months is basically a get us through the next 6 months until we find someone better approach? Like give us 6 months till we find a coach that can take over permanently? Is that sort of what the 6 months offer is, in your opinion?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
why it's insulting, really.
And obviously, as Jai said really well before, it's impossible for us to comment with 100% assuredness what's actually going on in there and why this has happened. Yeah. So obviously that's a hard question to ask. But for me, I do see a little bit of truth in what Pat said in his statement. Obviously, a lot of it could be PR, but I do see a little bit of it in that. And I see both sides like you do, Sam, now, because he was right. Like I think most sport teams, unless cricket's obviously a massive one as well because it's a whole year round thing. There's no real seasons. So I think, maybe the players were really after someone now that they've had their success and Justin's brought them from the literal dirt up to where we are now. Maybe they do want someone that can, teach them a few more new things, have a new voice around, and that can really, re-energize them to push harder. So I see that point of view, but as well, I think it's just that incredible occurrence where there's not many sports where your coach would take you to win two of the probably 5 biggest international tournaments and then get sacked. Like, I haven't seen that in many other sports ever in the world. But yeah, I think you're right, Sam. I think, in my opinion, they were looking for someone else a long time ago. And I think the results weren't really I think they weren't really even in contention to matter. I think that they were looking to shift off JL this summer. I called for Ponting, but it was interesting to see Ricky absolutely rip into CA. He was one of many former cricketers, including my personal favourite, Mitch Johnson, that sort of had a go at Cricket Australia for the handling of it. And obviously they know more than us, but they're on the outside still. So you still don't know who it's going to be. But yeah, I would really love to see Ponting. But yeah.
Just on that, Jono ripped more into Pat Cummins more than Cricket Australia, didn't he? As well, which I thought was interesting. But I think also, without disrespecting Nick Hockley and Cricket Australia too much, they do want like a yes man type role. Like Pat Cummins is their perfect captain. I think it's shown through obviously Steve Smith not being given captaincy in terms of what the sandpaper game, what happened, which I think is fair enough. The Tim Payne thing. If they do want someone who's going to say yes to everything, it's not going to have a bad, rap or what you want to say. Like they do, they want the model citizen really. They say it's the most important job in Australia, or whatever, and they take it very seriously, obviously. But that's what they're looking for. Like there's someone that says yes to everything, and he doesn't step a foot wrong. But I think Justin Langland's a bit stiff, but yeah, that's it for Pat Cummins. He did come out and he did that press conference, which is good, but there was no too hard hitting questions. I didn't think, but yeah, that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, speech.
Yeah, I was listening to SEN yesterday, and that was interviewing Uzi about it, and he said that it was important to separate the coach and the person. I think that's because obviously JL as a person is obviously a great bloke, really down to earth, and he's just a genuine, fantastic person. I think that's what kind of gets lost up in a lot of this. So that's what Uzi was saying. Like JL, the coach is completely different from JL the person, and it's kind of his name being dragged through the mud a little bit with how intense of a coach he was. I think that's very, very stiff on him as well. And it's just all around not a great situation. It hasn't been handled well by probably any party at all. It's kind of a little bit disappointing for CA after, had a great last few months with the World Cup and the Ashes. And then just for the summer end like this, it's not really ideal.
Yeah. It's disappointing, but then at the same time, like any new signing is in sport, it's exciting as well. So like I said before, it'll be very interesting to see how Andrew McDonald goes this series. Just a final word on JL. Will he coach England? Jai?
He's a fair chance, isn't he? Because England needs someone exactly like him. There's a lot of talk going around that they might give him that phone call. So we won't be surprised if he does get that call, and I won't be surprised if he does take it.
Sam?
See, I'd be surprised if he did take it. I'll put it the other way, but I don't know. I don't know. I just see it as like I would never coach England. I'd feel unpatriotic, but I guess I've never seen a paycheck that big in my life, so it's hard to say. But he's definitely a big chance in terms of the experience and just how well he knows the game. And as you said, he is exactly what they need. So it wouldn't be shocking, but yeah, it'd be heartbreaking to see.
Jack?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he'd take it, as Sam said, but I'm a pretty strong chance I reckon that England would definitely offer and want him to be, or at least someone like him to be their next coach. So yeah, definitely a fair chance. Not sure if he would take it or not, but would not be surprised at all if he was their next coach.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think you all made great points there. I think that obviously his ability to take a team from being quite bad to quite good would be very appealing to England. I personally think they throw the absolute bag at him, and if he doesn't come because he's got too much, Australian pride in him, then that's their loss. But yeah, anyway, so thanks for sticking with us again. It's another episode of Around the Wicket. Our next episode out will be a review of the Sheffield Shield matches. So stay tuned. Be out in a couple of days.